I'm Julian Minnesone. Cam Ward's turnover troubles continue, but can he fix it? We'll talk about it.
I'm Tyler Rowland, and we saw the good, bad, and ugly from Cam Ward in Week 7, but there's no way you can already call him a bust.
I'm Brad Hopkins. 9 more weeks left in the season. We don't know where we are at this point.
Tighten up. It's the Titans Squad. Everything Tennessee Titans every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the heart of Music City, the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Squad up. The Titans Squad Show starts now.
And welcome to the Titans Squad Show. I'm your host, Julian Minnesone, alongside Brad Hopkins, Tyler Rowland. A lot to talk to today this week as the Titans are coming off a loss to the New England Patriots. We're, of course, going to talk about Cam Ward, his turnover troubles. Can he fix them? And the things we thought that Cam Ward did well on Sunday. The injury list continues to mount for the Titans. How much of a concern is that? And we'll take your comments, questions, concerns throughout the show. Thank you for tuning into the Titan Squad Show, making it a part of your day. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Now, we want to start with one of our favorite segments is Tighten Up versus Tighten Down. Tyler, I'll start with you. We'll start with some positivity here on a Tuesday. What are some of the things you are tightened up about this morning?
Chim DK. Chim DK had a little bit of a breakout performance. The 4 catches, 70 yards, and a touchdown. Has a 31-yard return. We knew that he's been impactful in the return game so far this year, which is something that, it's kind of been buried under all the other crap that's made the season not as fun. But the special teams has been good, and the Titans have been begging for a returner that doesn't just catch the ball. Like, we've been worried so long about, can this guy even field the ball and catch it? Not only can DK catch it, he can return it a little bit too, and that's something that hasn't been around for a while here, and I think that's pretty exciting. And then for him to get into the game and actually play some wide receiver and not just be used as a gadget guy on reverses and quick screens, for him to actually have an opportunity to run a normal route tree and make an impact down the field with his speed. We knew coming into the season this was a team that didn't have a ton of speed at any part of the team, let alone on offense. So he adds that element for him to have a breakout game, not only as a returner, but as a receiver. And then what we just saw last night, fellas, with Tyler Lockett getting released, who might be able to go in the Tighten Down section. Like, I think that release of Tyler Lockett, some people have skewed that negative because, hey, the team's 1-6, everything's negative. But I think the release of Tyler Lockett is actually a positive thing for the Titans and what it means for Chim DK and some of the young guys to get opportunities, go more tight end heavy. So I think my Tighten up here is Chim DK's emergence in this game as a true wide receiver, and then the subsequent release of Tyler Lockett and the confidence that shows in playing some of these young guys more throughout the year.
Yeah, I thought Van Jefferson stepped up 4 for 41 yards. Maybe that does alleviate some of the, the cloudiness in that room, just getting rid of a personality that could be possibly taking away reps. But, my positive first off is this is probably the best first quarter that we saw from the Tennessee Titans. Kind of sad to say, but it was the best first quarter. They had a lead. Cam was 10 of 11 for 144 yards. You mentioned the DK touchdown. Obviously they had a lead until about 5 minutes to go in the second quarter. So, how I'm always on Dan Moore. Dan Moore leads the team in penalties, but after a rough start, he's played better the last 3 weeks, So yes. I think that there's obviously something to look at there. Like when you're trying to get that fire started, when you're around the campground, you see these sparks, right? It's not a fire yet, but it's just a spark. That's what I saw in the first quarter, some potential, if anything.
Yeah, I'll probably bounce off what Tyler said earlier with not just Chim DK with the 70 yards, and obviously he's been a revelation in the return game, but the young receivers, at least early on, I thought did pretty okay. Gunnar Helm got in on the action a little bit more. He had 4 catches. Alec Iomanner made some plays early. It's just, I think if I were to kind of tie together a Tighten up versus a Tighten down, it's the rookie receivers have been solid this year, but can you do it for 4 quarters? I think the inconsistencies are still there. Obviously, this was a little bit of a different game, and usually what we've seen from the Titans is a slow start, like Brad was saying, and then they turn it up in the second half or the fourth quarter or whatever when they have to come back and the defenses are in like prevent situations. This was the opposite, where you had a great start, but then you couldn't sustain it over the course of 4 quarters. But I got to tell you, fellas, I was happy with where the Titans were at the end of halftime. I mean, outside of the Drake May play to Kayshon Boutte, which lost them the lead at halftime, and then the Patriots get the ball back, and of course it went all downhill from there. I was happy with the way this team was competing. What about you guys?
Yeah, I agree with that. Honestly, without the Cam Ward turnovers at the end of the game, which we'll talk about those, the drop in the ball, the interception on the bad throw, like if those weren't part of this game, this would be a perfect Titans game for 2025. Like we all came into the season understanding, all right, this team's not very good. The Patriots have turned out to be a very good team. The Titans aren't going to beat a lot of very good football teams, but if Cam Ward can play well, the young guys can step up and show some things, and the Titans lose, that might be all you can ask for. You know, they competed hard, their young guys played well, and they lost to a better football team. Like, I figured we would see a lot. That's what we wanted out of the season, in my opinion. I came in predicting the Titans would win 5 games this year. I was hoping for a lot of, hey, they competed hard, the young guys played well, they just aren't good enough to beat a lot of teams. That's what I was hoping to see a lot of this year, and sadly, we didn't get that very much early on. It was just absolute disgrace with nobody looking good. So if not for the 2 bad turnovers that kind of warped the conversation around Cam Ward, this is honestly kind of a digestible loss, in my opinion, when you look at some of the other things. Like Gunnar Helm was great too, and not only in the pass game, but in the blocking game. And you look at some of the snap counts, you know, Chigakonkwo early in the year out-snapping Gunnar Helm by 25, 28 snaps. That's come way back down. Now it's like 5, 6, 7, 8, which is what I think the difference should have been all along. So I know it's kind of hard to say this. There are no moral victories, but the young guys looking pretty good. The Titans competing and fighting hard for a half, you know what I mean, the best they can. And then things kind of falling off as a better team takes control. I could have dealt with a lot of those losses this year, and I'm not as discouraged today as maybe it felt immediately after the game, because looking at Cam Ward's tape, it's not quite as bad as maybe the 2 terrible plays make it seem.
You know, I think what's interesting is that heading into this season, you kind of mark off some teams that you think might struggle, that the Titans might have a chance to beat. This is before we saw the record, right? Those teams are playing well. You know, look at Danny Dimes is being considered one of the best quarterbacks in the game. His offensive line is being, lauded as a team that, has control at the line of scrimmage, that kind of stuff. Look at the Patriots. Are you kidding me? 5-2 right now, second in the division. Obviously in Mike Vrabel's first season. So those teams that we're playing that we thought we might have wins against, they're playing, some exceptional football. And the thing is, how we always hear Shaq talk about the others and how the others have to contribute. The team is just full of others. They don't have that guy, the one that really demands the focus of the opponent. And, with that, it's just a lot of room for people to be discovered. And it's kind of hard, when you're not consistent, to use guys that just don't have that star power. The NFL is full of star power. It's just not here as on at least the offensive side of the football anyway. I mean, we have one star, that gets mentioned all the time. That's Big 98. And unfortunately, the hamstring might slow him down just a pinch. But either way, he needs help. Cam needs help. Cam needs to develop. But at the end of the day, I think that this team, it could do some more to help itself out down the road.
I wanted to talk to you guys about, obviously, Mike McCoy, when he took over. It was a short week and a whirlwind of a week after Brian Callahan getting fired. Something he talked about is he wanted to tailor the offense to players, not plays, and put his guys in the best position to succeed. From what you saw, and granted it was a short week technically, from him taking over, from what you saw and the tweaks that he made, are you a little bit more confident that he can get the most out of particularly the young guys and specifically Cam Ward moving forward? Because like you said, B-Hop, he started off pretty darn good at 10 of 11.
Yeah. I think that when you talk about a simplified game plan, what you're trying to do is you're trying to take the thinking out of it. Run plays that are familiar. Run plays that you have success doing. So that way you can just simply react to what the defense gives you versus, am I supposed to be doing this? Am I supposed to be doing that? Sometimes when you're so complex, the thinking slows you down. And I think that for the quarterback position is probably the most prevalent. You know what I mean? You don't want to give him a whole playbook of stuff to have to worry about. Give him a few plays that he knows that he can run effectively. The offense has confidence that he can get those things done. And then you play with the speed and the efficiency that allow you to be successful. That's what he's talking about. Taking out all the minutia, all the craziness, all the gadget stuff, and all the things to think about, and just get out there and play some damn football. At the end of the day, that's what this comes down to, right? It's about making the guy on the other side of the line of scrimmage submit to your will. And the only way that you can do that is if you're running and doing things that you feel confident about. And they've yet to find what that is.
Before the game got out of hand, we got to, game script is a thing. You can't, stick to the run game when you're down 31-13. You know what I mean? Like that takes you out of what your plan was. But when the game was in a neutral game script, I liked what we saw from Mike McCoy. There was less slow developing run plays. They went so much heavier with zone runs instead of the gap runs that they had been doing. And for those listening, the zone runs are the quick hitting runs where, you're blocking an area of the field as an offensive lineman rather than a man responsibility. When you see pullers coming from the backside, tight ends and guards pulling from one side to the other side, those are usually gap runs. And those are slower hitting runs, and the Titans just haven't been able to hold their blocks long enough for those to hit really well. So they got to more quick hitting zone runs, which I think is very important for this offense. They don't have the ability to run these slower developing plays, and they kind of cut those out other than two little orbit motions. We had the orbit motion screen to Chimdike, orbit motion fake screen to Chimdike, where they tried to hit the down the sideline to Gunnar Helm on a bad pass by Cam Ward, but they kind of cut out all the nonsense and went with simpler things, quicker hitting zone runs in the run game. And the run game didn't really get going, but again, the game got away from them in the second half. You couldn't go to the run as much. And I thought early on we saw play action, moving pockets. The touchdown was a play action and a moving pocket where you got Cam Ward out of the nonsense and he's just out there by himself, and you see the arm talent and the ability to deliver. Credit to Gunnar Helm on that one as well. One of my Titans up for a one-on-one block that made that play possible. But I did like what Mike McCoy was doing, keeping short routes over the middle, a lot of drag routes, a lot of crossing routes. Some of Cam Ward's best plays are on simple things over the middle like that we know he does well. So until the game got out of reach and the Titans kind of had to alter their plan, I did like what Mike McCoy was doing from an offensive schematic perspective. And I think it does. I feel more encouraged today that this team might be able to win some football games down the stretch than I did with Brian Callahan coming in. That was my takeaway, Brad.
Well, one quick thing to add. When you're in pursuit, when you're in chase mode, because you're never in the league, because you don't have control of the ball game, that dictates what you're able to call. Yeah. If you look at that scoreboard and you say, man, I'm down 10 points, I'm down a couple of touchdowns, that automatically just says, hey, look, I can't do certain things because we have to get back in this ball game. We have to try and put points on the board. And sometimes that manic approach to getting back in the ball game, it's not consistent. You know what I mean? Think about if this team were to play with that 10-3 lead for most of the game, what the play calling would look like, right?
Exactly.
Because it's completely different than, God dang it, I need to put points on the board. This thing's getting out of control. Now they're up by 17. Now they're up by whatever. And your play calling is dictated by what you're seeing on the scoreboard, because you've got to try and get back in the ball game. And unfortunately, we haven't seen a consistent situation where the Titans have been in control of the game to make the game planning look more effective to what they like to do, right? So I think that when you look at just them not having the ability to get out to fast starts, them not being able to consistently win, those one-on-ones or win at the line of scrimmage to allow them to dictate the pace and dictate what they call, it makes the offense look funky.
Is that your guys' or maybe I'll give you guys the floor to have your official Titan down for this week, because as I said, that was something I said earlier, B-Hop, is the consistency over the four quarter. But what would you guys say is a Titan down this week if you had one?
When you look at it, the wheels started falling off like most games do, after they had that lead. And, after Joey Sly's second field goal in the second quarter, the Titans never scored again. So I think that, when you look at what the Patriots did in the very beginning, they just ran the ball 3, 4, 5 straight times, I think it was.
Embarrassing.
Right? But I will say they only gave up 3 points. Because after all of that, to get into the red zone, they didn't give up a touchdown, but they did seem like they were just like bend but not breaking. And ultimately, they slowed it down, but they just seem to be vulnerable at the line of scrimmage. And I don't know how much better that's going to get if Jeffrey's not healthy. But at the end of the day, they just got to – one of the things I hate the most is when the media on the sideline stops the coach, going into half and asking them dumb questions. Did you guys catch Mike McCoy's response? I mean, it was the most eloquent and funny response ever. He said, yada, yada, yada. He literally said that. He's like, we got to do this, we got to do that, yada, yada, yada. And then, of course, she let him go because there's nothing else that he was going to say in that instance. Like, you just gave up a touchdown to end the half. What do you think about that? I mean, what do you think I think about that? You know what I mean? So the obvious question gets asked, and, of course, he just wasn't having any of it, So I just, I don't know. I just want to see them do better when I know that they can.
Tyler?
Yeah, I think my Titan down was at the end of that game, I was just looking out at the players on the field, and you have Jihad Ward and Jalen Armar Davis and Daryl Baker and Quandre Diggs and Cody Barton and Tyler Lockett and Van Jefferson. And I'm just like, man, this team is bad, man. Like, this is bad. They just don't have good enough players out there to compete with these teams for 4 quarters. And then when they hurt themselves with turnovers and your quarterback is giving the game away, it's just impossible to win. So, like, the level of play that they would have to play at with some of the players that they have on the field after Snead gets injured and there's no Calvin Ridley and now Simmons is out, and it's like, boy, they just, like what Brad was talking about, you need to kind of build around your stars and add depth around them to complement them. But the Titans just simply don't have any stars out on the field. And I'm like, how do I expect them to win this game with what they're going at? So I guess my overall Titan down is more of just they're so far away from having what they need at so many places. It's just, it's unfortunate, I guess. Yeah. For being October, I'll say it's spooky. They're going to have to hit Borgonzi's going to have to literally go on a heater like John Robinson did from 2016 to 2019 to find a way to turn this around.
Yeah, real quick, there were 2 instances that I thought were kind of a microcosm of where the Titans are. I listened to Drake May's post-game press conference, and he was talking about Mike Vrabel coming back to Nashville and what that meant to him quietly, because he wasn't going to say it publicly. And he mentioned the amount of success that Mike Vrabel had here. And then to double down on that, did you guys hear the chants for Vrabel at the end of the game?
Yeah.
That was a stadium that was basically saluting or celebrating a dude that, did something with this franchise that just hadn't been done consistently. Now, of course, we know it didn't end well, 6-11. That might get you fired if you have two back-to-back sub 500 seasons. But I think that he laid a foundation. And when you look at those guys that celebrated him in the locker room after he said all of this stuff post-game, they knew what that meant to him. And they rallied around him. And they played well in spite of a lot of situations because they're galvanized because of the culture that Mike Vrabel brings with him wherever he goes. So it was just an unfortunate situation where, the game after we fired Brian Callahan, well, we didn't fire him. I didn't fire him. After Brian Callahan gets fired, you play the coach that was the last coach to take this team to the playoffs, and he slowly but surely suffocated the team and, just made sport of us. And that's the way it was going to work out. I think we talked about that last week going into this game, that all the pressure was on him. Well, guess what? His team responded. Our team didn't. And for a guy that has more familiarity in the spaces in that stadium than most of the coaches do, it was just a very telling story.
Mike Vrabel upgrades to somebody hotter after leaving his ex. That's kind of the takeaway I have there. All right, coming up on the other side of the break, we're going to talk about Cam Ward, what we liked from Cam, and maybe some of the concerns we have after a couple turnovers this week. Stay with us on the Titan Squad Show.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
All right, fellas, we wanted to talk about Cam Ward. His final numbers on Sunday: 25 at 34, 255 yards, a touchdown, an interception, and of course the costly fumble, which pretty much more or less ended the game. Now, I will say completion percentage wise, it was his best game of the season, about 73.5%, if I got that math correctly. Outside of that, though, 10 of 11 to start, great first half. But then there was the big fumble that led to the touchdown. And I looked up his numbers back in college because I know that was an issue, at least when I covered him at Washington State, about being maybe a little too lackadaisical with the football. 34 fumbles over his 5 years of college career, 17 of those lost fumbles. So I guess my question to you guys is, he said it was simple as, I got to hold on to the ball tighter. But is it as simple as that, considering this isn't necessarily a new issue for Cam?
No, it's not as simple as that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brad.
Well, I was just going to say real quick, how many times did you see that happen through the course of this season?
2 or
With
3
the quarterback going back and it just slipping out of his hands.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it not for one team. So that's an anomaly. That's basically his issue. You know what I mean? Yep. Whether it's squeezing the football, whether it's doing whatever the mechanics would allow you to do to have better control of the football. I mean, that's something that he needs to work on. But I will say that, it's a 50-50 thing when you talk about explosive plays, when you talk about running the offense, because while Cam does have the ability, we've seen it in certain instances. I mean, he's got to have the guys around him that can also lift him up. How many times do we see a quarterback get lifted up by his receivers, by making great catches, by making themselves available, by doing the things that allow him to be special? So it's not just Cam and his arm ability. It's a combination of everything. It's the guys that he's throwing to. And I will say, going back to like Will Levis, Will had 12 picks and 10 fumbles in 12 starts as a rookie. 4 picks and 7 fumbles in 9 starts as a sophomore. So we saw the issues there, but some of that was just the gamble. I mean, not just the frivolous, silly stuff. I mean, it doesn't get any worse than fumbling a football into the end zone, basically, where a guy can just basically put a touchdown on the board and then just kind of blowing the game out of the way. Now, I will also say that Cam's been sacked more than anybody in the National Football League by 8. He's been sacked 30 times. Drake May is the next guy below him that's been sacked 22 times. Justin Fields 22 times. Jalen Hurts 21 times. But at the end of the day, him running, sometimes under duress, him creating pressure for himself sometimes, not being able to get the football out of his hands, and then running backwards. If you're going to run the damn football, at least get north and south. Stop running south and east and west. Let's see you use that skill set, to gain positive yards versus escaping the pass rush. So at the end of the day, it is a concern because he's the one that has the football in his hands and is supposed to do the things with it that make this offense successful. And sometimes he's been a liability.
Well, it's a pattern now. He's done this 2 or 3 times this year already, just drop the ball like that. And even, when he gets contacted in the pocket, he has a tendency to fumble the football as well. So it's not even just these phantom, I'm dropping the ball. It's literally anytime he's in the pocket, he just does not have the focus right now to hold on to the football. It's just not something that he's locked in on doing. And I think my biggest issue with Cam Ward through the entire season is his lack of focus on the small details. Like, he is just a lackadaisical player. His footwork is very lazy. Those short throws where he's trying to throw little wide receiver screens and stuff, he's so lackadaisical with his arm mechanics and everything. He thinks he can just flip it out there like it's college again. And hey, maybe when you were at Incarnate Word, you could do that. You're at Washington State, you could do that. And even at Miami, he could get away with some of the stuff like that. But you got to be more on your P's and Q's and cross your T's and dot your I's at the NFL level. You're not going to be able to get away with it. And I think bigger than a problem with me with the fumbling is the inaccuracy. He throws one way behind Alec Iomanor in the first quarter on a 3rd down that should be easy pitch and catch completion for a 1st down. He throws one way behind Chigakonkwo, and the people do it hit his hands. He should have. Literally, Chig is running one direction, and the ball is totally behind him, and he tries to Neo in the Matrix turn around in the middle, and his fingertips barely touch it, and it's an interception. That is 100% on Cam. Chigakonkwo should not catch that football. The one I talked about earlier where they faked the wide receiver screen out to Chim Dike and tried to hit the vertical route down the sideline to Gunnar Helm. Cam Ward looks like Fat Joe, lean back. He's like leaning back like he's driving a car, like he's Denzel in Training Day. He's all the way leaned back. throwing that ball, and it sails way over Gunnar Helm's head. And I had people arguing with me, oh, he was throwing that away. No, he wasn't throwing it away. He was just so leaned back on his back foot with bad posture when he was throwing the football that he sailed it way over. So he just doesn't. That, and you heard during the broadcast that Mike McCoy is big feet. He keeps yelling feet at him when he walks by him because he has great talent, great arm talent, great knack for making plays and all of that. But at the end of the day, if you're not on your P's and Q's and the simple details, you're not going to be able to execute the hard stuff when there's a guy in your face and you're trying to make him miss and things like that. So I just think Cam needs to recognize that he can't get away with the lackadaisical play and the nonchalant vibe that he has survived with so far. He's got to clean it up. He's got to take every single rep and every single throw and really lock in and focus on what he's supposed to do, because all of his big mistakes, whether it's the inaccuracy, it's the risky throws, whether it's fumbling the football, to me it all comes down to he's just not quite focused enough in the moment. So the focus level is really what I'm looking for, and I think that'll fix a lot of the problems. Like, you just got to be more locked in than you were at any other level.
Brad, you're muted.
We're blaming the cat on that one, B-Hop.
Yeah.
The cat hit the mute button.
Does
Devilish
the cat have
creatures, man,
something
they'll
to say
get you.
about Cam Ward?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, maybe he's got little hands, maybe the size of the NFL football, even though it's a half an inch.
He does have small hands, though, Brad. That's not a joke. He does have, if you go by measurements of NFL quarterbacks, he does have really small hands. But there are guys like Joe Burrow has small hands and stuff like that, and he's still a good quarterback. So it's not something that'll preclude him from being good. But you are correct. He does have small hands for an NFL quarterback. That's true.
You know what I was thinking about when I was watching that game, fellas, is just it reinforced how important this coaching hire is going to be for the Tennessee Titans, because you look at a guy like Drake May, right, who struggled at times last year, came on better at the end of last season, but now he's got a coach in Mike Vrabel in a stable situation, and he's slinging it with the best of them. And I think it's no more exemplified than there was that 4th and 1 play in the red zone, and they let Drake May, they had the trust in him to make a play. Granted, the throw was a little bit behind him, but the receiver, I think it was Demario Douglas, did make an incredible catch. But the idea that he has the coaching staff and May's at a point where there is confidence for him to go in that situation, there's not that consistent confidence, at least right now, from Cam Ward's perspective.
Well, also think about this real quick. 21 of 23.
Yeah, almost perfect.
The dude had 2 incompletions. He had 2 incompletions in 60 minutes. There's a combination of things. First off, I didn't see many contested catches that he was throwing to. In other words, guys were open. Them getting themselves open, making tremendous catches for him, and him throwing an accurate enough ball for him to go 21 or 23, that's an exceptional performance. You know what I mean? So we've got to give credit where credit is due. Where Drake May was confident, he was slinging the beam. They were putting him in situations where, the offense were able to make plays and taking advantage of coverage. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, we can compare the 2 quarterbacks, but he did. I mean, it's not like Cam Ward's numbers were bad. I mean, it's what would you say, Tyler, 75% completions or something like that?
Yeah.
But I don't know what 21 or 23 is. I know that's in the 80s. You know what I mean? And that's a pretty good performance to have to deal with for anybody, any defense.
Tyler, go ahead.
You mentioned Drake May. I wanted to bring that back up. Credit to Paul Kaharski. Doesn't get a lot of credit from many people, but I'll give him credit for this one. He made the comparison. Drake May, through his first 7 starts last year, eerily similar to Cam Ward. He had 7 interceptions, 5 fumbles. The team was 2-5, 66% completion percentage, which is a little better than what Cam Ward's is. But, the team was bad. It was ugly. He had a ton of turnovers. I mean, he had more interceptions than Cam Ward does, more turnovers than Cam Ward does through his first 7 games. So I think it's fair to look at Drake May and be like, he is an example of, hey, it can be ugly early on and you could have a talented quarterback go through some turnover issues. But like Brad said, get the head coaching hire right. Get somebody who's going to get the best out of this guy, and you could clearly see the talent that's there and what they can turn him into. So I think if you're a Titans fan looking for some optimism, look no further than the guy that you saw on the opposite side of the field this weekend with Drake May, who had turnover problems and his team wasn't winning in his rookie year, but he had talent. You saw the talent, and he got the coaching hire right, and now they're up and running and doing things. If you're a Titans fan, you got to look at the Patriots situation and hope that that could potentially be you next year if things go right. Now, with the doomsday mindset that the Titans fan base has right now, I doubt anybody out there will be sold by me on that, but hey, it's possible. It's at least you're telling me there's a chance.
Cam Ward, as Brad mentioned, started 10 of 11. The Titans had the lead for a majority of that half, and things started off pretty well. They got him moving out of the pocket. There was that early play to Gunnar Helm, the first play of the game, which got him moving the pocket across the sideline and doing something that Cam Ward does best. But my question to you guys is, how can you get that same consistency that we saw from that first quarter, particularly over the course of 4 quarters?
Honestly, think about it. Like I said earlier, in that first quarter, they weren't behind in the ball game. In that first quarter, they were right there, having slowed down the onset of punching you in the mouth from Vrabel's offense to getting off the field, giving the ball to Cam, allowing him to do some things with it, be very efficient within those first 11 attempts. And that was basically them having control of the game, of what they were calling, and, just trying to mix in some runs with Pollard and Spears. You know what I mean? So I think at the end of the day, while we like to see Cam, throw the football, you've got to put him in those situations that allow manageable down and distances. In other words, running the football is what gets you 2nd and 5. Running the footballs gets you into 3rd and 1 situations where you can run play action, where Cam can use his legs versus having to drop back and have a 3rd and 10 that he needs to complete, that he has to be almost pinpoint accurate to make it happen. If we create less of those situations and more manageable situations, then he gains the more confidence that it takes. In other words, I don't see this being the Cam Ward that's going to be running after Big Jeff talking smack like he was during the preseason. Mm-hmm. I don't think that he's that guy right now, because he's looking at all the things that are difficult for him, and it's hard for him to kind of say, hey, look, I'm in control of what's going on here. Follow me. Because when you're a part of the problem, it's hard to kind of have that confidence and unless you just have an exceptional personality that's able to blot out everything, yourself included.
75 rushing yards. 75 rushing yards a game right now for this football team. Think about this. 71 in week 1, 109 against the Rams, 86, 82, 78, 65, 39. 39 rushing yards against the New England Patriots. And the Patriots' run defense is really, really good, but 39, how is that supporting a rookie quarterback? Go find me a rookie quarterback that had a great rookie season when his team was rushing for 75 yards a game. You're right, Brad. If they don't find a way to get some more success on the ground, it doesn't really matter what happens with Cam Ward. He's going to be in such disadvantageous situations consistently that they're just going to have no shot at all. And even if they were to get a lead, even if they were to have a lead in the second half, how are they going to salt it away if they aren't able to run the football? How are they going to keep time off the clock? How are they going to keep the defense fresh? There are so many dominoes that fall. Brad, you made the point at the beginning of the show, and it's a point that I echo all the time. At its core, football is a game about moving another man against his will. That is what the game is. Can you line up across another man and move him where you want him to go against his will? Can you do that? That is the game of football at its core. That is what we love. Move that man. And the Titans can't do it. They simply cannot do it right now. And if they don't run the football better, it's not just about Cam Ward and how it affects Cam Ward. It's the entire football team and the trickle-down effect that's created by not being able to do the most fundamental part of the sport itself. So right now, if you wanted to increase hope that they could win, the only way that they can do it is by running the football better. And I think it'll be no coincidence that the game that they run the football best, and when Tony Pollard has a breakout performance and Tajay Spears compliments him and Cam Ward gets out of the pocket and gets a couple first downs with his legs, the Titans will go over 120 rushing yards, and it'll be their first win of the season, and it won't be a mystery why. They have to run the football better. They have to.
Yeah. You know what the hardest thing to do in the NFL is pass block. It's the hardest thing. Moving backwards, stopping another grown man from getting from point A to point B to get your course. It's the hardest thing. And when you spend most of your time doing that, how much success can you have? You know what I mean? So I know at the end of the day, no one wants to hear 3 yards in a cloud of dust. but give me 3 yards in a cloud of dust, because guess what? 3 times 3 is 9. I only need 1 more yard to convert a first down. I'll take that all day long in manageable down and distances. I keep saying that because what is this game about? This game is about converting. It's about continuing drives. It's about winning time of possession. And the only way that you do that is to stay on the football field. I was about to cuss. Can't believe that. Anyway, the point being, you can't do that from third and double digits. It's hard. It's super hard. And I'm not taking shots at this offensive line, but they're not the best equipped pass blocking team. In other words, pass blocking comes down more than just me blocking that guy across from me. A lot of it is understanding blitzes, stunts, all the things that these guys are doing. You're not just blocking one person. I saw a couple of instances where Kevin and JC were on different levels, getting mixed up and not taking the right guy. Next thing you know, somebody comes through scot-free and then puts more pressure on the quarterback. And next thing you know, you're in a longer down and distance than you were before the previous down. So they need to be able to run the football to stay out of those ugly situations, as unfortunate as that actually is.
It really is complementary football. Like, I know that people get annoyed by that, and that seems simplistic, but it's all about how everything football is the ultimate team game, and everything complements everything else. So it's like, if you're not going to run the football, then like you said, the domino effect begins. Now you're in third and long, and the Titans have had the highest average of yards to gain on third down of any team in the NFL. I mean, it's 8+ yards is their average that they need on third down, and that's never going to be, it's like in the NBA, with the NBA starting tonight, figure I'd throw an NBA reference in here, as me and Julian would say, go Lakers, baby. But in the NBA, they don't just track your 3-point percentage, like how many threes you make. They track how good are you in the corners when it should be easier because it's the shortest one. How good are you on wide open shots compared to when there's a guy within 1 to 2 feet contesting you? Like, there are so many different facets to it, and in football, it's not just, hey, how good are you at throwing the ball? Third downs are different. You have a way higher success rate of converting on 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5 than you do 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10. Like, not all third downs are equal. So we look at their third down conversion percentage, and it's awful, but most of those are the hardest possible third downs that you can have. And when you're not running the football, you get into more third and long situations. It's harder on your offensive line. It's harder on your young quarterback. It just makes it on max difficulty for the offense. So the most fundamental thing about the sport, running the football, they don't do well. And until they fix that, they're going to continue to struggle on offense, especially as the game continues.
And if the Titans already didn't have enough problems, that injury list is getting mighty long for the Tennessee Titans. And we'll talk about those concerns coming up on the other side of the break here in the Titan Squad Show. Keep it here. All right, Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IHS Top Safety Pick Awards than anyone else as of this month or last month, whatever. Mazda is certainly running the game right now. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, fellas, so that Titans injury list is getting mighty long. The team training staff is going to have a busy week this week. Jeffrey Simmons obviously leaving the game on Sunday with a hamstring injury. L'Jarius Sneed with a quad injury. No Calvin Ridley again with that hamstring. And, of course, a bunch of other guys with bumps and bruises along the way. You always go back to that quote that Jeff Simmons says, the best players need to play better. Well, a lot of the best players are out. And so it's a next man up mentality right now for the Titans. How concerning is this for this team? Because the margin of error for this team is already so razor thin. And you have a bunch of key players that are status up in the air or been missing time already.
T-Row?
It's not very concerning. Let me just say that, because the team's not good anyway. So, it would be concerning if the team was good. It's like they're not winning games with all these players that are injured anyway, and they're not relatively close either. It's not like they've been close. The Titans' point differential this year, the Titans have less than half of the amount of points that their opponents have scored. I mean, they've been doubled up in these games through the first 7 weeks. So it's like, if the Titans were a competitive football team, yeah, some of these players might be the difference between a win and a loss, but Jeffrey Simmons has played like the defensive player of the year through 6.5 weeks, and it really hasn't mattered. They haven't even been close. in a lot of these games other than Arizona and Denver. So it's like, I hate to be so crass, but it's not that big of a concern to me because they're not very good. And quite honestly, I want to see more young players anyway. Like a lot of these players, L'Jarius Sneed probably not going to be here after the year. If he re-aggravated the quad injury that had him out all year last year, you know what he's going to do. He's going to sit. He's not going to play. I mean, what veteran play? I mean, Tyler Lockett just went and asked for his release because he doesn't want to be a part of this football team. You think a guy like L'Jarius Sneed is going to rush back to play for this team when he knows that he's probably going to get cut in the offseason and get to go somewhere else and choose and be healthy and play in a better organization again? Like, at some point in time, this is the problem with filling your team with mercenaries, is they aren't bought into the team like a guy that you drafted. You know what I mean? And that's why the motto now is draft, develop, retain. And Mike Morganzi even said guys who are drafted by the team, re-signed by the team, developed by the team, they just care more about the team than guys who you bring in from the outside. It's just a reality. You know what I mean? So I don't think it matters all that much. I mean, you want to see good football. You want to see them have a chance to win, but we know the team's not very good. We know they're not going to win a lot of games, and I want to see some younger players. So, like, you know, let's get more Kevin Winston out there. Quandre Diggs is running in quicksand. Amani Hooker has played the worst football of his entire career. I don't know what happened to him. He's fallen off a cliff. He's their worst safety. Xavier Woods is slow and slowing down. Cody Barton is so slow, can't get off a block. He's a sieve out there. Let's see some James Williams. You know what I mean? Like, I'm to the point where let's play Marcus Harris instead of Darrell Baker Jr. Let's see if the young cornerback can turn it, and maybe he could be your next Jarvis Brownlee Jr. and make that not feel so bad, as Jarvis Brownlee Jr. has literally been the best player on the Jets since we traded him over there to him. So it's like, let's just see these young players. You know, let's see if Tavondre Sweat can assume a bigger role on the defensive line and step in for Jeffrey Simmons and make an impact. Let's just see what he looks like when he's the big dog on the defensive line. Like, Gunnar Helm. Let's trade Chigakonkwo out of here and let Gunnar Helm play the entire game as tight end one. Let's do that. You know, I'm to the point where I don't think they're going to win a lot of games. So as long as the young guys aren't injured and we get to continue to see these young guys who will be a part of this team in the next 2 or 3 years, that's all I really care about. Like, Calvin Ridley can be out. Sure, whatever, trade him. Let's see some Xavier Restrepo. Let's see more Chim DK. Let's see more Alec Manor. I'm to the point where I'm not really that concerned about wins. I just want to see how these young guys progress and people who can be a part of this football team going forward. Like, let's trade Kevin Zeitler out of here and see if Jackson Slater can play. Why not? Why not? How much worse can it get? At this point is where I'm at. So the injuries suck, and it definitely is going to decrease their chances of winning, but their chances of winning weren't that high anyway. So I'm not going to act like it's, something that'll kill the season when the season's already dead.
Yeah, injuries do suck, but guess what? They're as much a part of the game as anything else.
Exactly.
But what injuries do is create opportunity. It gets to show the mettle of a team. What did you do between rounds 2 and 4? To create depth. But the thing is, backups, they haven't been beat down with the lack of success, that this team has experienced. Somebody's got to be able to take advantage and get discovered. The funny thing is you had some names that you just threw out there, Tyler. Here's some names that I threw on my list. Marcus Harris, Kelvin Winston, Jahad Ward, Van Jefferson. Some of those you already said, but, the point is they should be a little bit excited about getting on the football field. If you stood on the sideline and watched all this stuff happen, all of a sudden someone says, hey, 72, get in there. I mean, you're thinking, oh, God, here we go. Or you're like, okay, I get to go in there and show you what I can actually do. That's the difference that you talk about when you talk about injuries. And, they happen every single season. And it's just an ability for somebody to step up and show them some. I mean, look at Mac Jones, for goodness sake. Brock Purdy's on the sideline, and this dude here has been diamond for this team, for the San Francisco 49ers. So it's an opportunity for when you lose somebody that is very impactful and very important to what you're doing, helping create that structure. You got to be able to step up in those moments and make something happen. It's the plight of a backup. You know what I mean? Because you're standing there 1 minute sipping Gatorade. Next thing you know, the guy goes down in front of you and you're on the football field. Are you ready for those moments? Have they found the right guys to be able to take advantage of that? That'll also tell you what you do through the draft, because the draft is more than just the first round, right? The draft is more than just the dude that everybody's talking about through the first 32 picks. After that, we get to see how you're actually building this team, because those guys that you've drafted after that, they're going to actually eventually sometimes see the football field. And let me say this real quick. Some of our best teams that we had in franchise history were created because guys stuck around. And maybe they stuck around because they didn't want to be traded or didn't want to move around or whatever else, but the culture was already established because dudes had been in that locker room and on that roster for a number of years. So that way, when new dudes come in, we weren't expecting them to tell us what to do. We weren't expecting them to start creating and changing things. Hey, look, this is the way we do things. Get in line with us. And this is the culture that we've established. Why can you do that? Because guys have been around long enough. Look at Jeffrey Simmons. Jeffrey's been on this roster for 7 years. You think some other D lineman is going to come in here and all of a sudden start telling him what to do? It don't work that way. So at the end of the day, when you've got guys that have been on this roster long enough to have that kind of emotional connection to this team and care about it that much because it's their culture, then anybody that comes in is just supposed to then get in line with what has already been established instead of trying to establish you because you're some name coming from someplace else. That very rarely happens, even for big names.
I think a mentality thing here is you want players. Like, a lot of these veteran guys are disappointed because the team's not good. But a lot of these young guys are excited just to play, and I think they need more guys out there that aren't disappointed by the outcome of the season and that are just excited to get the opportunity to play. And I think that general attitude change could help them in some big situations and maybe play some better football. Just simply, I'm not out here disappointed we aren't good. I'm out here so excited I finally get to play. I think that is another big reason why we need to see more young guys. And I think the Tyler Lockett release, and we might start seeing some trade action here today, tomorrow, next week before the deadline, I think that'll help fix that problem a little bit too.
Yeah, Tyler Lockett saw Chim go for 70 yards and basically said, check, please.
Let me out of here. Yeah.
Let me get out of here. Okay, on the other side of the break, we're going to take your questions, comments, concerns, whatever you may have in our Titans Talk segment. We want to get you guys involved, so keep those comments coming in the chat if you're with us live on YouTube. The Titan Squad Show returns. Keep it here. All right now, the NFL season is upon us. It is here. It is well into the NFL season, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It makes watching football even more exciting when, of course, you've got a little something riding on the action. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right, fellas, we had some questions from earlier in the chat right now. Somebody actually said that they met a friend of your dad, Tyler, in Baton Rouge.
Yeah. I know exactly what they're talking about. Yeah. My dad's friend. Yep. 100%.
Tyler's like Pitbull. He's Mr. Worldwide out there. All right. Let's see what we got here. There was a couple questions that we had in the chat, or even a concern. This is what they think for the draft order right now from Hub284. I think we should go edge, wide receiver, running back in that order. I know it's early to be talking about draft, but we mentioned draft, develop, retain is the motto of this team right now. If you're looking at it ahead, like, what are some of the big issues and concerns that you see now that we have a sample size for the Titans?
Well, let me just say this. I'm not trying to hate on you, Hub284. Thank you for the comment, but you cannot think like that. What if you get to the second round and there's only a fifth-round wide receiver? Are you going to take a fifth-round wide receiver in the second round because you think they need to go edge, wide receiver, running back? What if you get to the third round and there's nothing but undrafted free agent talent level running backs left? Are you going to force a running back into the third round even though they're a seventh rounder because you think you need to go running back? Like, you can't do that. You don't know that there's going to be an edge that makes sense with your first pick, a wide receiver good enough for your second pick, a running back good. You got to play the board. You can't just go in saying we're taking this, and this. You got to play the board and play the value. So I'm not disagreeing that edge, wide receiver, and running back are big needs. I think edge and wide receiver are probably the two biggest needs on the team, and I think running back is a much bigger need than maybe people realize right now. Like, I don't think Tony Pollard's going to be on this team next year, and we already know that Tajay Spears cannot be relied on to stay healthy. So, I don't disagree with those as major needs, and it would be nice if they could get it to go that way, but you can't go into a draft saying round 1, we take this, round 2, we take this, round 3, we take this, because you simply don't know that there are going to be guys worth those picks at those positions in those spots. So I'm not saying you're wrong for looking at those spots, but you simply can't go into a draft saying this round we take this round we take this, because you got to play the board more than that. It's not that cut and dry.
I'd say you got to develop up front first. Even though you're talking about edge rushers, which I think are super important, being able to put pressure on the opposing team's quarterback, because if you give any quarterback time in this National Football League, they're going to pick you apart. And if you don't have guys that are game planned for, it's going to be easy for them to just do those things that they've been doing to make them these great quarterbacks, right? So at the end of the day, an edge rusher is super important, but protecting our quarterback is probably more important. And I'm not talking about just haphazardly maybe spending some money on a dude that, was okay for another team. I'm talking about, if you're going to spend money on a free agent, spend the damn money on a free agent and get somebody that's playing at the top of this game that everybody wants, but you outbid everybody else and you got what you paid for, right? But then you've also got to develop your roster by getting younger players that are going to be around here for at least 4 years through a rookie contract, make them better than they were in college. And now you've got the foundation that this team needs to allow the offense to be functional. Wide receivers, I'm not going to take shots at the wide receiver, but at the end of the day, man, you're supposed to be able to catch the damn football, right? But I got to also have a quarterback that can throw it to you and allow you to have the opportunity to catch it. And if the quarterback is under duress because he doesn't have a pocket to be able to work with, or the balance of a run game because this team can basically stay on the field for long periods of time and basically wear down the defense, at the end of the day, you got to win up front on both sides of the football. So I will put O-line in front of edge, then maybe edge, and then throw your skill position in there, whatever you want, whether it's a running back or wide receiver. It doesn't matter.
B-Hop, I had a question for you about the O-line. We've seen J.C. Latham back for 2 straight weeks. What have you assessed from his play so far? And Tyler, you could hop in also as well, because let me pose something to you, because I was talking about this with Corey Curtis, my sports director over at News 2. Is there a chance that he could be a guard next year?
Well, I'll put it this way. They need to find a spot for him and leave him there.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. It's like this right tackle. It's not really that hard when you think about just switching up schematically. Left side pass blocking, right side pass blocking. Left side run blocking, right side run blocking. At the end of the day, it's about your muscle memory and motor skills and just doing it consistently, right? But that right side has just shown to be problematic for Cam or for JC so far. I thought that there was instances early on where he looked really good, but then there's sometimes where he reverts back to someone that's struggling. But that's everybody's taking their shots up front, with that moniker, of like, hey man, this guy's playing really good 1 minute, and next thing you know, he's struggling the next minute. So at the end of the day, I just want him to find his home and stay there. They're not moving Peter Skoronski all over the place, right? That's probably why he's playing at some of the best football that he's ever played, and by position in the National Football League. I mean, I don't doubt that Peter Skoronski makes the Pro Bowl this year because of just how consistent he's playing, and that's despite the guys around him. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, JC continues to improve, and you also got to remember he's just going into his second season. It's just his second year in the National Football League, so it's not like he's going to look like some polished 8-year veteran. He's still learning, he's still growing, but it doesn't help him at all when you've got him playing a completely different position than he was last year.
Yeah, I'm just not ready to panic about J.C. Latham. This conversation, move him to guard, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm not saying that that's not something that could potentially happen eventually, but I'm saying it's not right to say it now. It's like the Cam Ward bust. Cam Ward's a bust. Like, you can't say that won't be the case. Like, who knows what happens in the future, but you can't say that right now. So I think that a lot of things, when the team is bad, it's very annoying for me as someone. I'm online a lot, and I try to engage a lot and go back and forth with people and answer comments and do all that. But like times like these, I don't even want to go online and engage because people are so angry. They're just like, like foaming at the mouth, and everything is, it's like my dog when he's frustrated. He's barking at this, barking at that. There's nobody even there. What are you barking at? Like. Everybody just wants to hate on everything. Cam is a bust. Move J.C. Latham. Take Amy Adams Strunk and tar and feather her in the streets. Like, I want her to answer questions so we could throw tomatoes. Like, everybody's just so mad. They want people to pay, and they want changes, and they want to see people lose jobs and move so that their anger can feel expressed, And I'm just like, can we just take a deep breath here? The team's not good. I'm mad about it too. It sucks, but like, we don't need to call Cam a bust, or move J.C. Latham from right tackle and all this different. Like, let's just take a deep breath here. Let the rest of the season play out and reassess how everybody did after a full season. It's like what people do when we talk about head coaching candidates. Bills lost. Joe Brady sucks. I don't want him as the coach anymore. Steelers win. Aaron Rodgers throws 4 touchdowns or whatever. Oh, Arthur Smith, let's get him back. Steelers lose. Oh, Arthur Smith is a bum. People just go week to week so much with how they feel about stuff, and I just can't do it. I just cannot do it. Let's wait a minute. Let's watch Cam Ward's rookie year and then see what patterns pop up. Let's let J.C. Latham get back healthy, get back into the system here, and see how he does throughout the season. It's just some of this stuff is so knee-jerk and so quick and so, the team's bad, I'm mad, he sucks, he's moving, we need this, that. It's just like, everybody take a deep breath, man.
Yeah, but if you think about it, everybody goes through their struggles. And
Yes.
at the end of the day, either you get cut or you get fired. It's just what happens. Look at Sam Darnold leading the Seahawks. He sucked as a Jet. Now the dude looks awesome. Look at Baker Mayfield. He was the first
Daniel
pick
Jones.
of
Daniel Jones.
So at the end of the day,
Wake up, people.
It's what happens. You know what I mean? Sometimes you go through these troughs of crap and you just got to find a way through it. And then you find that right chemistry that works with wherever you're at and you make something good of it. So at the end of the day, we're always going to call for somebody's job. I mean, think about that. They were chanting for Mike Vrabel at the end of the game. Well, half the people that are in the stands chanting for him were the ones that were calling for his butt to get fired.
Chanting for him to get fired, yeah.
Exactly. So it happens like that. And you look at some court. Hell, Peyton Manning went 1-15 his first year as a coach. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, there's greatness that can be had in there. It's just finding the right set of circumstances, finding the right support group, just finding the right, situation. And then you can also show your potential and be good at some things. So at the end of the day, some of the best players that we're talking about in the National Football League right now have had their struggles. Hell, look at Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts got benched, got replaced, and had to go to another college and do all this other stuff before he found a way to get back in a starting situation and then ultimately find his way to the Eagles and make something of his career. So it happens to everybody.
And I think there's a lot of people out there who don't. Football is hard, and you fail in football. And that's why I love sports as a teacher for life, and why I think playing sports is so important. I think there are a lot of people out there who simply haven't put themselves out there enough, or haven't ever tried as hard as you got to try to play sports, and then failed. So they see other people fail and they're ready to take their pitchforks out and skewer them, you know what I mean? But it's like some of those people have never tried hard enough to fail at anything that mattered, and they don't know what it's like to bounce back from failure. So I think there's a lot of that out there too that's frustrating for me, is, a lot of people just don't understand how life works because they've never put themselves out there and took a risk on something.
Well, we'll see if the Titans can bounce back from a tough week against the Patriots and a tough week in losing their head coach when they take on the Colts this week in Indianapolis. A tough test as the run defense has struggled and Jonathan Taylor is on the horizon. The first place Colts, by the way. Who would have thought? All right. That will do it for the Titan Squad show. I'm Julian Minensone. That's a disgusted Tyler Rowland, and that's a 2-time Pro Bowler Brad Hopkins. Thank you guys for joining us. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And, of course, be in every day or two Tyler's Locked On Titans show. All right. We'll see you guys on game day. Thanks for listening.